the best Confederate generals, brilliant tacticians of a lost cause. Imagine commanding thousands of exhausted soldiers with little food, worn-out boots, and almost no chance of victory. Imagine fighting against a nation with more factories, more railroads, a larger population, and an industrial economy that could replace men and machines faster than you could destroy them. Yet for 4 years, a handful of military commanders repeatedly stunned the world. Their victories are still studied in military academies today, but there is another side to this story. These men fought for the Confederate States of America, a government founded in 1861 whose leaders explicitly declared the preservation of slavery as a central reason for secession. So, how did some of history's most talented battlefield commanders come to fight for a cause that would ultimately fail? Tonight, we're examining the best Confederate generals of the American Civil War, not to celebrate the Confederacy, but to understand the men whose leadership, strategy, and battlefield decisions shaped one of the bloodiest conflicts in American history. This is the true story of Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, James Longstreet, Joseph E. Johnston, J.E.B. Stuart, and Nathan Bedford Forrest, the commanders who transformed a rebellion into a military force capable of challenging the United States for 4 long years, and in some cases, their brilliance came at a terrible cost. The American Civil War began in April of 1861. 11 southern states would eventually secede from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. On paper, the Confederacy should have lost quickly. The Union had approximately 22 million people. The Confederacy had only about 9 million, and nearly 4 million of those were enslaved African Americans. The North possessed roughly 80% of the nation's industrial capacity. It had more railroads, more ships, more banks, and greater access to international markets. Yet, the war lasted 4 years and claimed an estimated 620,000 to 750,000 lives. One reason: leadership. The South produced an extraordinary number of military officers. Many had graduated from West Point and had served together during the Mexican-American War. When secession came, friendships were shattered. Brothers fought brothers. Former classmates became enemies, and some of America's greatest military minds found themselves wearing gray uniforms. Best Confederate generals. Number 6. Joseph E. Johnston, the master of preservation. Joseph Eggleston. Johnston may not be the most famous Confederate general, but many historians consider him one of its most underrated. Born in Virginia in 1807, Johnston graduated from West Point and earned distinction during the Mexican-American War. Unlike many Confederate commanders, Johnston understood something crucial. The Confederacy could not afford unnecessary losses. While others sought glorious victories, Johnston believed survival itself was a strategy. This often put him at odds with Confederate President Jefferson Davis. Johnston repeatedly retreated rather than risk destroying his army. Critics called him timid. Supporters called him realistic. During the Atlanta campaign of 1864, Johnston faced Union General William Tecumseh Sherman, one of the North's most capable commanders. Sherman outnumbered Johnston significantly. Rather than engage in a decisive battle, Johnston conducted a series of strategic withdrawals, forcing Sherman to fight for every mile. His army remained largely intact, but Jefferson Davis grew frustrated. He wanted victories. He wanted aggression. So he replaced Johnston with John Bell Hood. The result? Disaster. Hood launched repeated attacks that devastated Confederate forces around Atlanta. Within months, the city fell. Many historians still debate whether Johnston could have saved Atlanta, but one thing is certain: his replacement accelerated Confederate defeat. Perhaps Johnston's greatest moment came at the very end of the war. In 1865, after Robert E. Lee surrendered, Johnston commanded the largest remaining Confederate army. When he met Union General William Sherman, the two men negotiated one of the largest military surrenders in American history. Years later, Johnston attended Sherman's funeral. Standing in the cold rain without a hat as a sign of respect, Johnston reportedly said, "If I were in his place and he in mine, he would not put on his hat." Shortly afterward, Johnston became ill and died. Even in death, he demonstrated the complicated humanity that existed between men who had once tried to destroy each other. Number 5. J.E.B. Stuart, the eyes and ears of Lee. Every great commander needs intelligence, and Robert E. Lee had James Ewell Brown Stuart. Known simply as J.E.B. Stuart, he was everything people imagined a cavalry officer should be. He wore a red-lined cape, he played the banjo, he loved publicity, and he possessed an almost supernatural ability to gather information behind enemy lines. Born in Virginia in 1833, Stuart quickly became one of the Confederacy's most recognizable figures. His cavalry raids embarrassed Union commanders repeatedly. In 1862, Stuart rode completely around Union General George McClellan's army, covering approximately 100 miles and returning safely. The raid electrified the South. Newspapers celebrated him as a hero. For Lee, Stuart served a critical purpose. He provided reconnaissance. He screened troop movements. He disrupted enemy communications. In many ways, Stuart allowed Lee to operate with confidence. But Stuart's greatest strength would also contribute to one of the Confederacy's greatest defeats. In 1863, during the Gettysburg Campaign, Stuart embarked on another ambitious ride around Union forces. This time, however, he became separated from Lee. For several crucial days, Lee lacked accurate intelligence about Union positions. Then came Gettysburg. Without Stuart's reports, Lee entered battle without fully understanding where the Army of the Potomac was concentrated. Historians still argue over how much Stuart's absence contributed to Confederate defeat, but there is little doubt it mattered. Less than a year later, Stuart was mortally wounded at the Battle of Yellow Tavern. He was only 31 years old. His reported final words captured both his faith and acceptance of fate. "I am resigned. God's will be done." For Robert E. Lee, Stuart's death was deeply personal. The Army of Northern Virginia had lost its eyes, and the Confederacy had lost one of its most charismatic leaders. Number 4. James Longstreet, the general who was right. History can be cruel. Sometimes, the men who are right become the men who are blamed. James Longstreet knew that better than anyone. Nicknamed Old Pete, Longstreet was Lee's most dependable corps commander. Calm, practical, and remarkably modern in his thinking, he anticipated many military tactics that would define warfare decades later. Born in South Carolina in 1821, Longstreet graduated from West Point alongside future Union General Ulysses S. Grant. The two men remained friends before the war. Longstreet fought in nearly every major battle of the Eastern Theater. At Second Bull Run, Antietam, Fredericksburg, and Chickamauga, he demonstrated exceptional leadership. But his most important contribution may have been his willingness to disagree with Robert E. Lee. That was rare. Many Confederate officers idolized Lee. Longstreet respected him, but he did not worship him. At Gettysburg, Longstreet strongly opposed Lee's plan to attack Union positions on the third day. He believed the Confederates should maneuver defensively and force the Union to attack. Lee disagreed. The result became known as Pickett's Charge. Approximately 12,500 Confederate soldiers advanced across open ground toward entrenched Union troops. Within an hour, thousands were dead or wounded. It remains one of the most infamous military assaults in American history. Longstreet reportedly watched in silence. He knew what was coming. When General George Pickett asked for permission to advance, Longstreet could not bring himself to speak. He simply nodded. After the war, many Southerners sought someone to blame for Gettysburg. Longstreet became a convenient target. Why? Because he committed an unforgivable act. He supported Reconstruction. He joined the Republican Party. And he renewed his friendship with Ulysses S. Grant. Former Confederates accused him of betrayal. For decades, his reputation suffered. Modern historians, however, have reassessed Longstreet. Today, many consider him not only one of the Confederacy's finest generals, but perhaps its most forward-thinking commander. In a tragic twist, the man criticized during his lifetime may have understood the realities of war better than any of his peers. Number 3. Nathan Bedford Forrest, the most controversial genius. Few figures in American history are as controversial as Nathan Bedford Forrest. To some, he was a military genius. To others, he remains inseparable from some of the darkest chapters of American history. Both statements can be true. Unlike most Confederate generals, Forrest had no formal military education. He was born into poverty in Tennessee and became a wealthy businessman before the war. When conflict began, he enlisted as a private. By the end of the war, he was a lieutenant general. That rise was extraordinary. Forrest possessed an instinctive understanding of warfare. His famous principle was simple: get there first with the most men. Again and again, he defeated larger Union forces through speed, surprise, and aggression. At Bryce's Crossroads in 1864, Forrest commanded approximately 3,500 men against a Union force of nearly 8,500. He won decisively. Military historians still study the battle as a masterpiece of maneuver warfare, yet Forrest's legacy cannot be separated from Fort Pillow. In April 1864, Confederate forces under Forrest attacked Fort Pillow, where many defenders were African-American Union soldiers. After the battle, accusations emerged that surrendering troops had been massacred. The exact events remain debated among historians, but congressional investigations concluded that many black soldiers were killed after resistance had effectively ended. The phrase, "Remember Fort Pillow," became a Union rallying cry, and the controversy has followed Forrest ever since. Then there is what happened after the war. Nathan Bedford Forrest became the first Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, an organization that used violence and intimidation against African Americans during Reconstruction. Although Forrest later claimed to distance himself from the organization, his association with it remains an indelible part of his legacy. Studying Forrest requires confronting an uncomfortable truth. Exceptional military ability does not equal moral greatness. History is rarely simple. Some of its most talented figures were also among its most troubling. Number 2, Thomas Stonewall Jackson, the man who never lost. If Robert E. Lee was the Confederacy's commander, Thomas Jonathan Jackson was its hammer. Quiet, intensely religious, and utterly fearless, Jackson inspired devotion among his troops and confusion among his enemies. He earned his nickname at the First Battle of Bull Run. As Confederate lines began to falter, General Barnard B. reportedly pointed toward Jackson's brigade and declared, "There stands Jackson like a stone wall." The name became legend. Born in what is now West Virginia in 1824, Jackson overcame tremendous hardship. His father died when he was young. His formal education was limited. Yet through relentless determination, he graduated from West Point. During the Civil War, Jackson demonstrated an astonishing ability to move troops rapidly. His 1862 Shenandoah Valley campaign remains one of the most brilliant military operations in history. With approximately 17,000 men, Jackson tied down more than 50,000 Union soldiers. By moving quickly and striking unexpectedly, he created the illusion of a much larger force. President Abraham Lincoln grew increasingly frustrated. Union commanders could not seem to catch him. Jackson appeared everywhere and nowhere. His men called themselves foot cavalry because of the incredible distances they marched. Then came Chancellorsville. In May 1863, Lee and Jackson faced a Union army more than twice their size. In one of the boldest decisions of the war, Lee divided his already outnumbered force. Jackson then led a 12-mile flank march through dense wilderness. Late in the afternoon, his troops smashed into the Union right flank. Panic spread. It was a masterpiece. But victory came at a devastating cost. That evening, while returning from reconnaissance, Jackson was mistaken for Union cavalry by his own men. They opened fire. 3 bullets struck him. His left arm was amputated. At first, doctors believed he would recover. Then pneumonia set in. On May 10, 1863, Stonewall Jackson died at the age of 39. His final words have become immortal. "Let us cross over the river and rest under the shade of the trees." Robert E. Lee mourned deeply. "He has lost his left arm," Lee reportedly said, "but I have lost my right." Many historians believe the Confederacy never fully recovered from Jackson's death. We'll never know what might have happened had he lived. But one thing is certain: few commanders have ever inspired such loyalty or such legend. Number 1, Robert E. Lee, the face of the Confederacy. No Confederate general remains more famous than Robert Edward Lee. Even today, more than 160 years after the Civil War, debates about Lee continue. Was he America's greatest military commander? Was he overrated? Was he simply the best option the Confederacy had? The answer may be all three. Born in Virginia in 1807, Lee graduated second in his West Point class without receiving a single demerit. He served with distinction during the Mexican-American War and was offered command of Union forces by President Abraham Lincoln. Lee declined. He later explained that while he opposed secession, he could not take up arms against Virginia. That decision changed American history. As commander of the Army of Northern Virginia, Lee repeatedly defeated larger Union armies. At Second Bull Run, Fredericksburg, and Chancellorsville, his aggressive tactics produced stunning victories. His partnership with Stonewall Jackson became legendary. Together, they achieved what many considered impossible. Yet Lee's career was defined by both brilliance and risk. He often divided his forces in the face of superior numbers. When it worked, he appeared unstoppable. When it failed, the consequences were catastrophic. Gettysburg remains the defining example. For 3 days, in July 1863, Lee fought what many consider the most important battle ever fought on American soil. He lost. And with that defeat, the Confederacy's hopes of securing foreign recognition or forcing a negotiated peace began to fade. Still, Lee refused to surrender for nearly 2 more years. By 1865, however, reality could no longer be ignored. His army was starving. Desertions increased. The Confederacy was collapsing. On April 9, 1865, Lee met Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse. The meeting has become one of the most famous moments in American history. Lee arrived in immaculate dress uniform. Grant arrived wearing a mud-spattered field uniform. The contrast was striking. Grant offered generous terms. Confederate soldiers could return home with their horses. There would be no mass arrests, no public humiliation. The war, at last, was ending. After the surrender, Lee reportedly told his men, "Go home and become good citizens." He spent his remaining years serving as president of Washington College, encouraging national reconciliation. Yet Lee's legacy remains complicated. He fought for a government established to preserve slavery. No amount of military brilliance changes that fact. Understanding Lee means holding 2 truths at once. He was one of America's most gifted military commanders, and he fought for a cause that history ultimately judged and rejected. Conclusion. The best Confederate generals were not superheroes. They were men, brilliant men, flawed men, men capable of courage, sacrifice, and extraordinary leadership, but also men who made choices. The American Civil War was never simply a contest of tactics and strategy. It was a struggle over the future of a nation and over the institution of slavery that had defined so much of its history. Perhaps that is why the Civil War continues to fascinate us, because it reminds us that history is complicated. Greatness and failure can exist in the same person. Military genius does not erase moral responsibility, and victory on the battlefield does not guarantee vindication in the pages of history. More than 160 years later, the echoes of those decisions still shape America. And the stories of these generals, Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, James Longstreet, Nathan Bedford Forrest, J.E.B. Stuart, and Joseph E. Johnston, remain a powerful reminder that understanding history means confronting all of it. The triumphs, the tragedies, and the truths we would sometimes rather forget. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Which Civil War general do you think had the greatest impact on history? And what lessons from the Civil War still matter today? Thanks for watching. See you in the next story. Like and subscribe.